On August 14, 1945, in a vast aircraft factory in Willow Run, Michigan, a woman named Irene Kowalski pulled the trigger of her rivet gun for the last time. The pneumatic thump hiss drove a final. The sound was swallowed by the cavernous din of the still-roaring factory. Conveyor belts moved. Overhead cranes shifted. Men and women at their stations continued their dance of assembly, unaware that the war had ended an hour earlier. The news from Japan was still traveling down the chain of command, through telephone lines and office corridors, toward the factory floor. Irene's world was a symphony of controlled chaos. The shriek of bandsaws cutting aluminum, the deep thrum of hydraulic presses, the shouted coordinates between spotters and crane operators. Her station was a point on a moving line, a line so long and efficient that President Roosevelt had called it the Grand Canyon of the mechanized world. Here, a bomber was born every 63 minutes. She knew her bomber, serial number 44452, would be a good one. She had set every rivet on its starboard p.m. The shrill, uninterrupted blast of the factory whistle cut through the noise. It did not stop. This was not a shift change. One by one, like dominoes, the machines fell silent. The bandsaws whirred down. The rivet guns ceased their chatter. The conveyor belt, with Irene's nearly finished B-24, ground to a halt. A man in a suit climbed onto a foreman's platform. He didn't need a megaphone. In the new ringing silence, his voice carried like a gunshot. The war is over. Japan has surrendered. There was no cheer, not at first. The silence deepened, becoming immense and heavy. For over 3 years, this building had existed for one wholly terrible purpose: to produce the instruments of victory at a speed the enemy could not match. That purpose had just vanished. The soul of the place evaporated, leaving behind a gargantuan shell of steel and glass and 42,000 people who no longer had a mission. Irene looked down at the rivet gun in her hand, its hose snaking away to the now dead air compressor. She looked at the last rivet she'd set. It was perfect, gleaming dully in the factory light. It would never fly. That bomber would never be finished. It would be towed outside with the other half-assembled giants and scrapped, its aluminum melted down for pots and pans. That moment, the silence after the last machine stopped, was the true armistice. The battlefield ceasefire was a political fact, but this was the industrial ceasefire. It was the moment the engine of production, which had sustained the entire Allied war effort, was switched off. The peace would be built by diplomats and soldiers. But it was born here, in the sudden, deafening quiet of a factory that had just lost its reason for being. Irene hung up her rivet gun, took off her work gloves, and walked out into the afternoon sun with thousands of others. She did not know what came next, but she knew with absolute certainty what she had just finished. She had not just built bombers. She had built the certainty of the end. And with that last perfect rivet, her war was done.